Okay, so something went wrong with the previous recording where we were creating login and sign up API. Uh, Probably the software that I'm using is a free open source software, right? It crashed. Maybe the recording length was too long, so I'll have to keep that in mind. But I'll explain the flow so that you guys can understand what was done and do not feel lost. Uh, no worries. We'll open the MongoDB. It's pretty straightforward. We made two APIs. I'll explain the flow on the whiteboard as well. I created the whiteboard, but the recording crashed. No worries. I'll explain. Mm, mm, mm. Mm, 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 mm. Mm. Something broke. What? I guess something is wrong with the MongoDB instance. Okay, yeah, now it's working. So let's understand the flow first, right? Okay, so we'll come here and we'll see the sign up API first. In the sign up API, it's pretty straightforward. We are taking name, first name, last name, email, and password as the required field, right? So we extract that from the body. We check if all the field that user has sent are present with the required field, because like user can skip this field, right? Like they do not provide the first name, or maybe an attacker remove that first name field. So this is the validation that is present here. It will go through this required field. Will So I'll explain like what's happening behind the scene. We pass the request body, which is an object. We take the all the object keys. So basically, sign up data will have all the keys, and now we loop through this required field and we check if all these keys are present in the required field, and we return if it's true or false, right? So that's one validation. Then second validation is user valid that as the user provided a valid email. So we have used a library called validator. uh, I showed that during the recording, but it crashed. So yeah, that's yeah, this is the library. So it's basically compare the email or password that you have provided. See, this is check if the string as an email. So it uses regex behind the scene. So we don't have to take care of the writing the regex or not. So this is the one function where we are checking if the email is valid or not. And another check that we have provided, that the user does not send an empty string in the first and the last name, right? So this is where the first and last name auth check, this name provided function, will come handy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you do not write this function, the schema will take care of it as well, because we have defined the schema. So if we go here and we go to user model, the schema that we have created, the first name and last name are required. So if you try to send an empty string, the schema will throw an error. But it's always better to have the validation in the API itself before it goes to the schema. So that's one thing. So if any of the field is missing, we are saying not all data is sent. If the email is not valid, we are saying that please provide a valid email address. And same goes for the first and last name. If any of them are missing, we'll say provide the first name or last name, right? So far so good, right? And once the user have passed all these checks, right, like this f block is skipped, this is skipped, this is skipped, so we cannot save the password that user have sent directly as it is into the DB. So if you go here, you'll see that password is hashed, and we did it use with the help of PyCrypt. So this is another library for PyCrypt. It basically hashed the password. So how it worked, you have to export it, basically require the PyCrypt, and we use hash method will convert your password into something different, and this is the salt round, basically how many round of encryption do you want in your password. So standard is 10. If you write like 100 or 1000, the encryption will become slower, so it's always recommended to use 10 as a encryption round. You can use 1, but that would be pretty weak, and you can use 100, but that would take time to generate the password which is has a 100 level of inscription, right? So use 10 or maybe 20. Anything which is below 50 is fine, I guess. And after that, we create a new instance of the user model, right? So this is our model, right? User. So we create a new instance of that particular model. We provide the first name, last name, and email and password. But in this password field, we are providing the hash password, and we do save, like new user dot save. I explained all that in the video, but it crashed, so I'm really sorry. But yeah, then we send the account as created and data which is coming from here. That's how the sign up API works. Now we move on to the login API. So the login API flow is pretty much simple. You enter the email, sorry, and you enter the password. Since email is unique, we need to find that particular email, right? Every email would be a unique field in our database, right? So there would be two case scenarios here, right? Either you will find the email or you will not find the email. So let's discuss what if the email was not found, right? It basically means that user have not created the account with this particular email, so it's not in our database. So yeah, and another case would be that you found the email, right? So the user have used this particular email during the sign up process. Now you need to check if the password that is provided during the login process is same as the password that was provided during the sign up, right? And this is the extra process. I'll explain it later. So let's go into the flow right now. Right, you extract email and password from the request body. We need some validation here as well. We check if this particular email exists in our database, so we used a find one. Find one is coming from mongoose. Again, the video crashed, so we'll have to be go to API, we go to model, find. We used find one, right? Let's find one. Find by ID, find by ID and delete. Exist. Give me a second. Find one. This one. So it basically find one is basically a function where you pass a filter to it, right? So find one is like the condition are cast to respective schema before the command is sent. So suppose you sent country equal country is Croatia, right? So in the adventure model, it will find one document, or it will find the first document where the country is mentioned as Croatia. So in our case, if you go here and we wrote user model dot find one email, or the field that we want to find, with the field value, right? The email is coming from this the request body, and this is defined in our schema, right? So we find this particular email, then there is a case where if the email is not present, right? So it's simply will say invalid credential, right? We cannot say that the email is not used or the user does not exist, because attacker might know, right, what email you have used and what email you have not used, right? So it's always better during the login process to provide the message as invalid credential. Maybe they have provided the email wrong or password wrong. They have to figure out on their own. We cannot do that. We cannot expose the DB, right? Even by the message that we are providing. So let's suppose that user is found. Here we are comparing the password, pykrypt.compare, the password that is provided from the user, which is coming from the request body, and the password that is stored in the DB, right? This DB password. We are gonna compare this. So it basically will compare the string versus the hashed password. It will, on the behind the scene, it will decrypt this is user password, that's to password we have stored in DB, and it will compare it to the string password. If password does not match, again we are saying invalid password, and if password is matched, we are saying user is logged in now. I hope this is this is pretty much straightforward. We spent around 1.5 hours writing all this code because we faced some issue during the validation. We have to write our own custom validation for sign up data and all. So we took some time here, like good 20-30 minutes, and then we uh, pretty much took care of the login and the sign up API. But I'm gonna keep this video short because the previous video is lost and it crashed. Maybe I'll find a new software that supports a longer video, or maybe I'll upload in smaller sizes. So yeah, that's all for now. We'll discuss the rest of the flow later on. Right? Good day.